Hey guys, how are we doing? So we're back with another video from Any News, Overlord related. This really piques my interest because I love it when people take an anime and then they'll take the original source material and then they compare the differences. So he's gone and done Season 3 changes, cut content, what did the anime change, the meta-narrative, and plot holes. So, let's just get straight into this. I love Any News' Overlord videos. They're very good, very informative. I feel like I learned things. Scary. Anyway, let's get into this.
I'm sure that you've probably realized by now that Overlord has quite a bit of depth to it. There's so much more to it than what we've seen in the anime.
Right.
Though the anime is still great on its own, the light novel is a whole nother separate monster. It's filled with so much more lore and insight into all the characters and
Well, it
world,
seems it when you're giving us the info on the characters and that.
not to know the full extent of the fictional creation that is Overlord. So, welcome to a series co-created by myself and Jinfor, where we go into what exactly from the light novel was cut and changed from the anime,
this is gonna be good.
and how does it impact the show as a whole. This episode will be covering what was skipped from the first few episodes of Season 3, which translates to the light novel's Volume 8. It will serve as essentially a test pilot to what could potentially turn out to be a full-on series. So if you do end up liking this type of content, then be sure to let me know in the comments, and if there's enough love, then we can definitely make plans to go all the way back to Season 1 and do a full collection of videos that covers what was cut from the anime up until what's currently aired on TV.
That'd be really good.
Now, let's begin.
That'd be cool.
As most anime do when they adapt a lengthy source material, they attempt to keep things simple for the viewer and fit as much of the plot into as few episodes as possible.
Makes sense.
This is especially the case for Overlord, because the anime tends to fit a whole novel into 3 or 4 episodes by shifting the order of events from how they had appeared in the light novel.
Alright.
You see, the light novel would sometimes deliberately present events out of order in order to conceal certain bits of information, which would then enhance the suspense and mystery.
Okay.
The anime, however, would remove that and just present the events chronologically
Right,
to
fair
keep
enough.
things simple.
Let's just do it this way.
That being said, I wouldn't be too concerned about missing out on too much from the past seasons, because most of the timeline changes made to the previous volumes adapted in Season 1 and 2 were relatively harmless.
Right.
Unfortunately, that wasn't entirely the case for this season. Season 3 chose to bypass Volume 7 and go straight to Volume 8, all while rearranging a lot of the events of Volume 8, which resulted in just completely destroying its meta-narrative.
Oh, okay.
And what I mean by that
So
is
weird.
that the way that you were intended to read and enjoy it was disrupted by the shifting of the scenes. A lot of the mystery, suspense, and comedy just disappeared.
Yes, comedy.
And even something of a minor plot hole was actually introduced. So the first thing that you should know is that Volume 8 is technically a prequel. Although the developments it has are required to lead into the Volume 9, it's actually set between Volume 4, the Lizardmen arc, and Volume 5, the Kingdom arc. So while Sibas, Climb, and Brain are doing their things in the kingdom, Enri and Neferia are simultaneously dealing with their problems in the forest. So that means the anime chose to complete the Kingdom arc from Season 2, then go straight to Volume 8, rather than go to Volume 7, which it should have. Probably in order to have some sort of steady timeline, rather than just a bunch of time skips back and forth.
Wow.
Unfortunately, this change had a few negative implications throughout the narrative of Volume 8, as how it was adapted by the first few episodes of Season 3.
Okay.
More specifically, it was the opening scenes where Ainz humorously discovers that Nazarick has been operating with the intentions of taking over the world. This scene was split into 2 parts, each being the opening scenes of Episodes 1 and 2. Originally, it was intended to foreshadow the events of the Tomb Invasion arc, but instead it was modified to foreshadow the Carne Village arc. So, what type of plot hole could have stemmed from some minor adjustment like this? Well, it pretty much makes Lupus Regina look really dumb. In the anime, she's told alongside the rest of the Guardians while at the assembly that Ainz intends to take over the world.
Yeah.
It was also during this announcement that Demiurge very clearly stated that Carne Village was an important piece to that. So you'd think that a being so devoted to Ainz and his master plan would at least be paying attention to a gathering that literally almost every entity of Nazarick was in attendance.
Yeah.
But as we saw a few episodes later, she clearly must not have been listening, since she calmly watches various forces threaten its safety, all while gleefully hoping for its destruction.
Oh my god,
It's a direct contradiction to what Ainz would have wanted. In the light novel, this didn't happen because the gathering didn't take place until well after Carne Village had been attacked.
Wow.
And at no point during that ceremony in the novel was it stated that Carne Village was this crucial piece in Ainz's master plan.
Right.
Sure, Lupus Regina was told to watch over Carne
That's
Village,
so funny.
but Ainz doesn't directly state his process or plan in any amount of detail. Since, well, he just doesn't want to look stupid or incompetent in front of the Guardians.
That's
Instead,
brilliant.
he hopes that they'll be able to figure it out for themselves, and then everything will just fall into place after that. So, in actuality, all Lupus really knows is to just watch over Carney Village without knowing the why behind it, or even whether watching over it was supposed to mean guard it or just spy on it.
Right.
All in all, though, it's really not too significant of a plot hole. In either case,
Still
she
does make
makes
a lot thick, though,
unexpected
doesn't it?
assumptions
It's like
due
she was
to
at
her sadistic,
the bloody
evil
thing where they
personality. But
explain
in
it.
the light novel, it's Ainz's fault for not spelling things out, as well as failing to understand Lupus's personality and disposition. Whereas in the anime, it's Lupus's fault for being an idiot and
Yeah.
not listening to Demiurge clearly state that Ainz subjugated the village and ruled over them peacefully as an experiment for
That's
world
amazing.
domination, as opposed to just wiping them out. This, along with the fact that she was ordered to deliver alchemy equipment to Neferia to make potions, and provide the village golems to build walls to defend themselves, should have made it abundantly clear that he wanted them kept alive.
Yeah.
Even if
Hint,
we were to
hint.
put that aside, it's still possible that she projected her sadistic personality onto Ainz's orders and misinterpreted them accordingly. There's really not too much of a difference in mentality between. For example, Ainz declared them loyal subjects of Nazarick who were important to the founding of the kingdom and told me to watch over them while providing them assistance and resources. As they are now loyal underlings of Ainz, they should be happy to suffer and die as playthings for Ainz's amusement.
Wow.
Versus, Ainz spared random villagers and told me to watch over them while helping them out a little. He must intend for them to one day suffer and die as playthings for his amusement. So they're not entirely different, but the former is a much bigger leap in logic than the latter. As previous arcs have made clear,
Big jump.
attacking those under the dominion of Nazarick, whether they are originally from Nazarick or otherwise,
Otherwise, yeah.
is a direct affront to the name of Ainz himself
course,
and
it's an
the
attack on
legacy
him.
of the Supreme Ones. So that was the plot hole. Now let's talk about this meta-narrative, because you should really know how the story was meant to be portrayed.
Okay, interesting.
Then next episode we can look at the specific scenes that were impactful in the novel, but skipped in the anime. So, in addition to changing the overall sequence of the light novels, the show also moves a lot of scenes around within the narrative itself. Again, just to simplify things. You see, Volume 8 is actually split into two separate stories.
Okay.
The first half is called Enri's Tumultuous and Hectic Days,
Mhm.
and it follows the events from Enri's point of view only.
Ah.
The second half of the novel is called A Day in the Life of Nazarick, and follows virtually these same events, but from the perspective of Ainz Ul Gon and Nazarick.
Oh, okay.
The readers are deliberately kept in the dark about what Ainz is doing, and more importantly, why he is doing it. Well, at least it is that way until the second half of the book.
Okay.
If this pattern was to be maintained in the anime, we'd see episodes 2, 3, and 5 first, which were the events involving Enri, followed by episodes 1 and 4, which are the ones with Ainz and Nazarick.
Ah, okay.
Overlord as a novel relies very heavily on mystery and suspense to power both its comedy and drama.
Right.
It's able to keep important information concealed from the reader by showing different points of view of the same situation.
Weird that they've put the episode.
The initial perspective and the following perspective are often shown to be very contrasting because you reveal the inner thoughts and assumptions of two completely different characters. That way, you're given one impression first by spending this lengthy time essentially inside their head. You begin to identify with them and view things from their perspective, and most often make incorrect assumptions about what other characters are thinking, since you're obviously not seeing things from their perspective. Once you do see things from the eyes of another character, this allows the author to reveal, for dramatic or humorous effect, the difference between what the readers think is happening versus what's actually happening. So, as I'm sure you can imagine, there were a lot of mysteries throughout Volume 8. The first and biggest is what time the events of the book took place.
Oh, okay,
both
that's cool.
relative to each other and relative to the larger
So you're not-
series.
Right,
The reader
100%.
naturally assumes that the book is taking place after the events of Volume 7,
Ah.
the Tomb Invasion arc. The second mystery
What?
is
Right,
what
that's cool.
exactly
That
were
is cool.
Ainz and Nazarick doing during the events of the first half. It's almost as if they allowed Carne Village to be nearly destroyed. Because remember, the first half is just Enri's perspective. We have no clue as to what Ainz or Lupus were doing while these
That's a really good
goblins
way of
and
doing it,
ogres
that's
are
cool.
attacking. But as we already know, not only were they the cause of the forest being stirred up, but they also sat around while the village was being sieged. You naturally assume that Lupus reported what was happening to Ainz. I mean, from Enri's perspective, she seems overly curious as to what's going on. She's been there at all the important strategy meetings, and has appeared to be quite friendly with most of the villagers, and maybe even concerned with their well-being. So why is she not helping them in their time of need? It's not like Ainz doesn't want to give it to them either. He obviously seems to care for the village. I mean, he did give Neferia the alchemy equipment, helped to construct their defenses, and even aided Enri during her time of need at Iranto as Momo.
Yeah.
So to the reader, it just doesn't make sense.
That's weird, yeah.
But then you get even more confused when Lupus Regina says that she's looking forward to Carne Village getting destroyed. This makes you wonder, is she a traitor? Does she not realize how important Carne Village is? Or did the orders Ainz give her involve something more than we're already aware of? It's quite confusing and there's no clear answer. You naturally grow to care about what's happening to Enri and those around her after spending so much time seeing things from their perspective. And you know that Nazarick can just swoop in at any time with their overwhelming power and resolve basically any situation. So why don't they? When the siege of Carne Village does happen, the only support Nazarick ever gives is Lupus Regina showing up randomly near the end to bail Enri and Nefaria out of their dire situation.
Right.
So this leaves you wondering, did Nazarick drop the ball? Is Lupus Regina untrustworthy? Or were they perhaps too busy to help the village after the events of the Tomb Invasion of Volume 7? Remember, you don't even know that the events take place before the Kingdom arc of Volume 5 yet.
Right.
So ultimately, what exactly is Ainz's master plan here? He seemed to profess his ignorance to the whole situation when he invited Enri and Nefaria over for dinner, claiming that he was completely unaware of the situation, though as a reader you know that's not true since Momo became wary of it while in Iranto. This brings us to the second half of the novel, which resolves both the mysteries that we're confronted with.
Right.
When does this take place, and where was Nazarick this whole time? So at first, we're given several scenes of the goings-ons inside Nazarick, though you can't really deduce how it fits into the overall timeline, or how it even relates to the first half of the book.
Okay.
We see a little about how Ainz manages Nazarick, get some scenes with the Lizardmen, follow Mare on a journey through multiple floors as he meets a selection of fun characters, and the Guardians have even been assigned to go on vacation, which I'll go into more detail in the next episode.
Okay.
But through all these random humorous and dumb events, we come to a point where we can guess that these scenes are taking place during Sebas's mission in the capital, placing us during or before Volume 5 and 6's events in the kingdom. It's not until Ainz heads off to Irantel in a hurry that we notice that we're following the events of Enri's journey into Irantel from Ainz's point of view. Suddenly, everything begins to click into place. These two halves of Volume 8, which you initially might assume are completely separate stories, are actually occurring simultaneously.
At the same time,
we
that's
go
cool.
from forgetting that there were all these unsolved mysteries to resolving almost all of them at once.
That's
As
awesome,
it turns
yeah.
out, Ainz and Nazarick had just been screwing around the entire time, entirely unaware that Carne was going through this monumental crisis. It wasn't that Ainz and Nazarick was too busy to help after their tomb had just been invaded. Hell, that hadn't even happened yet.
Right.
Then, when Ainz confronts Lupus about this crisis, she's just revealed to be a dunce that feigns ignorance on the importance of the matter. You can't help but laugh at the ridiculous coincidence of it all. But it gets even better. It's soon revealed that Ainz was actually behind the siege of Carne Village in the first place. He was the one that ordered the remnants of the Giant and the Serpent's armies to go attack Carne Village. Everything in Light Novel 8 is put into context. It turns out nobody in Nazarick, least of all Lupus Regina, really cares about what happens to Carne Village. Hell, Ainz doesn't even seem to care that much.
No.
He went ahead and nonchalantly ordered a false flag operation on the village. There was no master plan. Ainz came up with it all in the spur of the moment as he was looking down over Gu's corpse, and the rest of Nazarick are just being their usual dastardly sadistic selves. It's equal parts shocking and hilarious. In the order the anime presents, the mystery is mostly removed, and so is some of the comedy.
Yeah, it's
Nazarick's
pretty straightforward,
vacation
the anime.
is presented before the events of Carne Village, so the contrast isn't so humorous. We also know what Ainz was doing and why, well before the climax of the arc is resolved. Any mysteries from one episode are resolved in the next. There
Yes,
isn't
like-
that lingering sense of unease and confusion that persists over the full arc before a dramatic reveal later.
I would have preferred it
All you
that
have to
way.
do is just tune into the next episode to answer any questions that you might have.
Yeah,
So now that you know this,
pretty straightforward.
if you had to describe Overlord's genre, it wouldn't be an isekai or a drama. It'd be a farce, a black comedy. Nearly all of the characters are designed to be tropes, either heroic tropes or villainous tropes.
Yeah.
And the light novels alternate between playing them for laughs, mocking their misery, and trolling the readers. It's been said that Ainz and Nazarick are basically the Addams family,
Right.
and nearly everything that happens in Overlord serves to set up some punchline or joke later on.
It's funny.
People, innocent or evil, have their lives turned upside down, or just lose them entirely. Just because most of Nazarick is sadistic, and Ainz is oblivious to the details of what they happen to be doing. And even when he is aware, he easily rationalizes things away because he lacks any empathy.
Yeah,
having
he's
been stripped of it
not
due
very
to his undead
empathetic.
emotional suppression. Furthermore, the contrast between the two leaders, Henry and Ainz, is the focal point of the book. Ainz is a very unusual character, because when we see things from his point of view, he's usually concerned with doing things in a way that isn't blatantly evil. He is usually polite and respectful, and very concerned with how other people will think of how he acts. Not because he necessarily wants to manipulate them, but because he's very self-conscious. That being said, he does tend to miss really important things. He has a one-tracked mind that gives him tunnel vision on everything else that's happening. It can be very difficult to figure out what Ainz is actually thinking about something, or what Ainz is going to do when we're not following his point of view.
Yeah.
Because we don't know what he knows or what he's focused on.
He doesn't seem to know
It
much.
makes for some extremely dramatic
Everything just seems to happen
and
around him.
storytelling when we don't necessarily know what Ainz is going to do or why, or when we make unfounded assumptions about what he's aware about. This is important because the fate of anyone and everyone in the world is basically up to his whims.
Yeah.
This allows Overlord to set up some brilliantly shocking or hilarious plot lines, and this is something that's completely lost when the show reorders everything chronologically and fills in the missing information.
Yeah, I really would have
But yeah,
preferred
that's
to
a
have
general
it
summary
told
of
in the
experience that you
order
missed
that it was
out
done
by watching the
originally.
anime
Here
instead
now
of
it's
reading the light
changed.
novel. Now, the actual cut content will be covered in the Overlord video after my Demiurge one. But hopefully you like this type of content, because there's still plenty more to go through and plenty more that can be made for the future.
That's cool.
So be sure to let me know what you guys thought about it in the comments. Now, thanks again to Jinfor for doing the research on this, and thank you guys for watching. So as always, if you enjoyed this type of anime content, then you already know what to do. So, until next time, ciao.
Ciao. That was cool. Man. Like, it's not just changed, like, the order is rearranged, and that's really interesting. Like, It's like, so visually they were like, right, we're just going to have the story told in order, chronological order, so there's no confusion. But with the book, it's like, oh, what's going on? Oh. I would have preferred it to be that way in the anime, but hey ho. These things happen. There are reasonings behind it, I suppose, and I suppose you want a more straightforward story when it comes to it being visual, because when you're seeing it and when you're reading it, it's different, isn't it? Like your imagination takes over, whereas visually, if you're being told everything, don't know, it could be quite confusing. Especially on like a weekly thing, when you have to wait a week to find out what happens next. With a book, you just read the whole thing there, and then I suppose what you're choosing, you'd get confused if the timeline was all over the place. Watching it every week, trying to figure out what's going on. But hey, cool. I think he's done episodes 1 to 5 changes. That's something I can't quite remember. But yeah, cool. Thank you guys very much for watching. What do you guys think of that? What do you guys think of this? Click like, subscribe if you haven't already. Leave comments down below. Let me know what I should watch and discuss in future videos. And I'll see you guys. It's all you guys. Next time.